Ash, hello. How are you? And just real quick, how old are you?
Hey, buddy, I'm 33. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, bro. Christianity is better than everything. Prove me wrong. Win a taco.
I have joined a couple of times on TikTok. I'm just on my PC. I thought today I would use this day. I think what you said earlier about the whole the only people that don't believe in the Trinity is like Muslims, but I think there's probably a lot of people like I'm atheist. I'm not Muslim. You can get me to say what it is Muslims aren't meant to say. I'm not Muslim.
Mm,
But I just had a few questions that maybe you could clarify to me that just don't make sense in my mind, if you didn't mind, or you could move on. It's entirely up to you.
go ahead.
So first of all, with the whole Trinity type sort of thing, obviously I understand, like what the three aspects of it are, but I just can't wrap my head around how when Jesus is down on the earth in his flesh form, nothing to do with like the praying to the Father or anything like that. But do a lot of Christians believe that everyone has their own kind of like path in life, whether that be like people say it's like God's plan, like whether you was born with a disability or whatever. It's just how God created you.
No, I don't agree
Is
with that. Kevin Clark came in with 9.99. Here's to sharing the good news on Good Friday. God bless and keep up the good work. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it, and I'll do my best. Sorry, go ahead.
so like say for example, if you was born sort of like disabled, you couldn't walk, for example, would that
Mm.
not be like God's plan that He's made you like that?
Could be, could not be.
So then what I'm thinking, which is one of the things that I can't wrap my head around, is obvious is sort of like if if that is sort of God's plan for that person, or whether somebody was blind or something, why did Jesus then perform these miracles to correct to correct what if you're
Yes,
calling like
that's
Jesus?
that's the problem. I don't agree that every single disability is part of God's plan. That's got a type of level Calvinism predestination that I don't hold to. Ted East came in with $5. Says, "Make the callers pray like Jesus. I want to hear some Our Fathers." All right, bro, go ahead.
But is that not something that just fundamentally kind of, I don't know, is just doesn't kind of make sense how you would think that. Well, just in general with like humans having disabilities, if everyone is made in God's image,
God's
surely
image just
when
means to
he
be a representative. That's all it means. Doesn't mean we look like him, right?
no no
And
no, I'm
then
not saying
then
we
you
would
can
all look like him because we would all look the same.
yeah, and then also if you take like for example the Catholic viewpoint, God's image would also mean that we're members of rational kinds. That's what it means to be an image. I think more of a traditional sense would be that you're just His representation on earth.
Okay, I mean, I guess
Right?
that
Because
somewhat makes sense.
if you think about it, you go into a temple, right? And when you go into the temple,
Hmm.
in the middle of the temple will be the image of the God you're supposed to worship. Well, all of creation is God's temple, and we're the image. So it's just the representation of who God is supposed to be here.
I guess, but then if I suppose if you say that obviously like God created humans and stuff, then where does kind of like the disability and whatnot come from? Why is everyone not formed sort of perfect?
We were formed
And
perfect. Our disability came in through sin.
but again, that's something that you get like kind of if I don't know, kind of if it was like trying to sell Christianity to me, if it was like an all
I'm
perfect
not trying
thing.
to sell it to
No,
you.
no, no,
Like,
no, no,
yeah.
no. I
But
know you're
but
not, but I mean like
but
me as
but
an
but but
atheist or
but
agnostic or whatever.
just pause on that idea though, right? Because trying to say, hey, if you're going to sell it to me, Christianity isn't a car, right? It's not something that's like, hey, this is the best, most appealing thing to you. Christianity is not appealing. There's nothing appealing about Christianity except for the fact that Christ died for your sins, right? That's the biggest thing, and that you'll be forgiven as long as are repentant. Those are two huge appealing things to Christianity, but the majority of it's not appealing. And I'm not interested in
But
what's
then it,
appealing. I'm interested in what's true.
okay, but then surely then going by that logic, if Jesus died for our sins, hence why there's no more like sacrifices or anything like that. He was the final sacrifice. Then why are people still being born with these disabilities if it's for sin? Because surely he's
Because
died for
we
that sin.
still
So,
have sin in the world. It didn't erase sin, right? It just means Jesus is the final sacrifice for sin. So you offer up Christ for your sins.
but what possible sin could a newborn have, or somebody, or a fetus in the womb? You've
They
not
don't.
done
They
anything
don't.
to commit
They
sin.
don't. They don't. Right? You're
Okay,
not getting. You're not getting. You don't get disabilities because you sin. You get disability because we live in a sin world.
so you're or so what you're telling me is that a baby could be born completely paraplegic just because
Hmm.
there's sin in the world, and he or she has to um uh, like take the L for that one.
Yes.
I mean, that doesn't seem fair.
Yeah, life isn't fair.
I'm not saying life is fair.
Yeah,
Life isn't fair, but if you've got an all loving God, why would a God want to do that to
it doesn't want
one of
to
his
do that.
creations?
Why do you say he wanted to do that? I literally said he's not the
Because he could
reason
change
for
it.
it.
Is he not all powerful? Could he not
Yes,
change it if he wanted to?
he could change it, but then that would stop the overall arc of his plan and redemption. God defeats it in the end.
So every paraplegic and every disability gets wiped out in the end.
In the end, every sin and sin aspect will be wiped out.
No,
That's
but I
the
mean,
whole
like
that's the
during
whole
some no,
point of a Christ, right? Christ destroys all sin. He defeats it in the end. There will be a time where we endure through it, but at the end it will all be destroyed.
but that's what I mean. Like in the here and now, if somebody is born or whatever with whatever disability, then they're gonna live their life with that until the day that they die. I don't
Yes,
understand how that can be,
because
how
that's
that
they
can
don't
be
cease to
fair.
exist when they die. Someone with a disability from birth here, it only makes sense in a Christian worldview as an effect of the fallen world. Naturalism just says bad luck. It's a good point, Gabriel. I know lots of people. You should look at Nick Ven. I can never say his last name. Anyways, he's the armless preacher. He's literally born with no legs and no arms, and you know what he does? He preaches Jesus.
Yeah, like I said, I'm sure. Like I said, I'm only asking this question. Not, I know it's like a debate sort of thing, but
Mm-hmm.
like, or like a debate show. But I'm genuinely just sort of asking the questions where you look at things and you go, well, why would that happen? Like, I do just have one more question, just slightly off topic. Well, still obviously Christianity, if you don't mind. It was actually something to do with one of your TikToks that you put out like a week or so ago, and it was about the Adam and Eve eating from the tree, and you
Yeah.
said, you said, if I had a if I had a friend who had a mansion and he said don't go into one room, you would like respect that and not do it. But surely
Don't
if
eat his
God is
Cheerios. That was the analogy I
don't
used.
eat don't eat his Cheerios. But would your friend be all powerful and all knowing like God? Because surely
Doesn't matter if he
it like
was.
of course it would.
Doesn't change the analogy at all.
So if can God do anything?
Yes.
Okay, so if if I said okay, so if you had somebody that could do anything literally can be literally anything, like even see into the future. Do you think
Mm-hmm.
God can do that?
Mm-hmm.
So surely God already preemptively knows that they're going to
Mm-hmm.
eat that from the tree. So why did he even put that there in the first place and say don't eat it when he already knows the outcome of
It
that?
doesn't matter, bro. It's still one of the simplest things. Don't eat the Cheerios. Even if God knows you're going to do it, he's still not the cause of you doing it because knowledge is not causation. It's still your fault.
I'm not saying he's the cause, but he knows the outcome from it because he can see the
Yes.
future. He knows it's going
Yes.
to happen. Like there's no like
Yes. Yeah.
parallel universe where
Yeah. Yeah.
like it might happen, might not
Yeah.
happen.
Then you miss the whole point of the video. The whole point of the video is atheists go, "How dare God? It's his fault." Well, you just admitted that it's not his fault. So you get the point of the video then.
No, I'm not saying no. I'm not saying it's not his fault. But what I'm saying is, like, I think the sort of metaphor that you did about having a friend and not eating his Cheerios, that guy
Mm-hmm.
doesn't know, like, he can't see into the future to know if you're going to eat his Cheerios or not. If he just says to you, John, don't eat
Yeah.
my
So
Cheerios, and then
what's
you
your
eat
point?
them.
What's your point?
Well, the point being that what was the point in telling them no in the first place when he already knows the outcome of it? Yeah, I understand that everyone has free will, but like, surely free
So
will
that they
doesn't
could
even
be
come into the
accountable,
equation.
right? Okay. Let's say that you have a family member and they're an addict of sorts. I can't say specific words because of terms of service. You
Mhm.
know that they're going to go out and do the things. Do you still tell them not to do it?
I mean, I don't 100% know they're going to do that because I
Nah,
can't see into the future. But if
come on,
God
bro.
can,
For the most part, you know they're going to. Like if you've ever dealt with somebody who's like in that subject of life, you know.
oh yeah, for sure. It's a
Yeah,
bit like
okay.
how people say
So, but
like don't give money
you're
to
still
beggars on
gonna.
the streets because they're just going to use it for
Well,
them
no,
sort of
that's not.
substances.
I wouldn't say that at all. What I'm saying is, if you know somebody in your life is like is an addict and they're gonna go out and do addict things, you know for a fact they're gonna do it. You're still gonna say, hey, maybe you shouldn't do that, even though you
Okay,
know.
but the argument that I will throw back to you there is because that's based on previous experiences and using rational sort of
That doesn't matter
logic
what.
as
It
to.
doesn't matter
Of
where
course it
you get
does.
the knowledge from. No, it doesn't. Knowledge is knowledge.
So if that person wasn't an addict, that like being an addict means that you've done something before. If Adam and Eve have never taken that apple or whatever it was from the tree. Like
Knowledge is
no one
still
would ever
knowledge.
need.
It doesn't matter how you come to the knowledge. If you know somebody's going to do it due to prior circumstances, or you know it because you're all knowing, you still know. And it's still a good thing to do what is good in that situation, whether you know or not.
Well, that's. I think you've kind of missed the point there, really, then, because
No,
being.
I get what you're saying. I'm trying to tell you that knowledge has no, like, knowledge doesn't,
but,
is not
but you're
causation.
using.
No, knowing
You're
something
using.
does not make something, does not change the standard of what you ought to and ought not do.
No, and I get that, but you're using like an everyday sort of thing of somebody being an addict in the real world as opposed to an all-powerful,
Okay.
all-knowing God.
Let me change this analogy. Let's say I travel back to the 1940s, right? I have
Okay.
future knowledge, right?
Yep.
Or 1930s, and I go run into Schmittler. Should I try to tell Schmittler not to do what he did?
Oh, now you're playing in parallel universes. Like, does that change the future, like in what you see in movies?
No, let's say I can't
Or
change the future, but should I still try to tell him, or should I just not even bother?
but you're not in control of that though,
Can you just please answer the
as God
question?
would be. You going back as a human, no, you wouldn't be. If nothing changes, then no, you wouldn't be able to change the future. But if God's all
So
powerful, he
you
can.
don't think I should at least make the attempt or say something because that's the good thing to
If
do?
nothing would change, then nothing would change.
I'm not
But
saying
you are
things would
only
change. I'm
human.
saying that's not the question I'm asking you. I still think you should do something because that is the thing that should be done in those situations because you should give the description of what ought one do.
Yeah, but like I said, that's why I asked the question. Could if you did manage to convince him not to do anything, and then the whole future changes, you would then come back to 2025, and we would probably live in a completely different world with
I'm
different
not
history
saying I didn't
textbooks and
say
stuff.
that it would change. The analogy was it didn't change. That's the point. That was the point of the analogy, is it wouldn't change. I still think you
But
ought to
again, you're
try.
just going back as a simple human telling another human not to do something bad. I'm talking about an all-powerful,
It doesn't
all-seeing
matter
God
if he's all
that can
powerful.
change that.
Doesn't this doesn't change the parameters?
Of course it does. It changes
No, it doesn't.
everything because
It
you've got
doesn't
a God
change. It
that can
doesn't change
literally
any
do
of the
anything. Can,
parameters.
can you do anything?
No,
You
I
can't
cannot do
any
anything. But it still doesn't change the
every.
parameters of. I can't do everything. Sorry. It still doesn't change the parameters of the analogy I gave. It is still humanity's fault for the fall. Doesn't matter if God knows.
I don't know. It just does to me. I think if
Yeah, it does
if
to you
you're setting some
because you guys don't want to take responsibility, right? Nobody wants to take
responsibility for
responsibility.
what?
Nobody want to take responsibility for their sin or their fall, right? And you could say, hey, they shouldn't. You can never. Sorry, let me rephrase. People never want to say, hey, they shouldn't have eaten from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Instead, they want to cast blame and say, well, God knew they would do it, so therefore it's God's fault. Well, no, that's not how knowledge works. Knowledge is not causation. They were still the cause by definition.
But knowledge is not knowledge and foresight are two completely different things.
Knowledge and foresight are the exact same thing. No difference. Knowledge is not
Well, of course they
causation.
are, because if you can
Knowledge,
see into
knowledge
the future,
so
then
so
you know
it
what's going
doesn't.
to happen.
Yeah, that's knowledge.
Knowledge is something
Knowledge
that
and
you
foresight
learn.
is the
Foresight
exact
is,
same thing.
but it's not.
Foresight is just knowledge of the future,
Yes, because you can see
which is
what's
the same
going to
thing. It's
happen in
just
the future.
knowledge. I really don't know how you think knowledge and foresight are different. If I have
But
foresight of the future, what do I have? I have knowledge of the future. That's not different.
yeah, but I mean, like knowledge, everything, all the knowledge that you have now, regardless of what subject you want to say it is things that you've been taught from the past.
It doesn't
You
matter
have no
where it comes
foresight of
from.
the
It's
future.
still knowledge. Doesn't like you're just special pleading. You're just saying it's different because.
Okay, well, okay, we'll say we'll just okay. Foresight and knowledge are the same thing, but we'll still go back to the initial point of if somebody can see into the future, is
It
different
doesn't
to
matter.
going.
Knowledge is not causation. Adam and Eve were the cause. Plain and simple. They made the decision. They did the choice. God knew, sure, but knowledge is not causation.
I don't know. I just think when you're trying to, like I said, I am a very sort of agnostic atheist. It's not that, like I said, I've spoken to you before and said, if I kind of had like a Christophany a bit like you did, then
Mm.
it would be completely different. I can just
So,
like
so
my
hold
sort
on,
of
hold on, hold on. So I just got two things. Kevin Clark came with 499. He says, does a prophecy unfold because it was seen, or was it seen because it was going to happen? That's a good point. So you're saying right now, if you had a Christophany, all of a sudden you would come to the conclusion knowledge is not causation?
no, I would have a much more belief in something like that.
We're not talking about whether or not God exists. That's not even the basis of our subject. We're talking about whether or not God is at fault for the fall. Right? Just
No,
you could have
I would
knowledge
still
that
have
God exists. Would you then, like, let's say you had your Christophany, would you now believe that God is no longer at fault for the fall?
no, I still would. I think
Right.
it
So
still.
that's why you haven't had your Christophany, bro, because you're sitting here blaming God for our mistakes.
I mean, I think that's the first. I'm 33, and that's the first time that's come out my mouth in a public sort of like demeanor sort of thing.
But that's in your heart. Amber D came in with 279, says death could not hold him. Amen. Amen, Amber. Good to see you, by the way.
but surely it's not the same sort of thing as like putting a mouse in a box with a bit of cheese and saying, "Don't eat that cheese." You know the mouse is going to do it.
Yeah, I know the mouse is going to do it, but if I can convey to the mouse in a way that it understands not to eat the cheese, even though I know it's going to eat the cheese, it's the mouse's fault if it eats the cheese.
But then, but then it wouldn't be. It'd be yours because you know it's gonna happen.
No, knowledge is not causation. Plain and simple. Just because I know something is going to happen does not mean I am the cause of it happening.
I mean, I just think that's like where you just said like atheists don't want to take responsibility. I think that's just a Christian.
Give me a circumstance.
Okay.
Okay, give me a circumstance where you know something, therefore you're the cause.
Um. Um. What like is if I was to do something and I would be the cause of it?
No, if just by you knowing something, just you having knowledge of something, therefore causes something to happen. Go ahead.
Um. You're changing the goalposts.
I'm not changing the goalpost. My entire argument is knowledge is not causation. You're saying it is. You're saying God knew, so therefore he is the cause of the fall. So I'm asking you to give me give me a reductio to show me where knowledge is causation.
But with what you're asking me is again changing the goalpost.
It's not
because
changing.
you're
It's
asking-
literally the topic. The topic is knowledge causation. That's what we're debating. Changing the goalpost would be to change to a different point.
No, you moving the goalpost. Then is what
I'm not moving the
probably
goalpost. You're making the claim that knowledge is causation, so I'm just asking for a reductio to prove that. That's not moving the goalpost.
In your
It's
claim is
asking
it's
you
Adam
to
and Eve's
explain it.
fault, even though God put the tree there, God told him not to eat from the apple, and he's all powerful and can see into the future and knows that would happen anyway.
Modern Brain came in with $5. Says if the weatherman predicts the rain tomorrow, let's blame him for when it rains. Michael Evans came in with $2. Says Henry is responsible for drunk. Is Henry responsible for drunk drivers? JJ came in with $1.99. Says I don't cause the sun to rise in the morning. LOL. Do you know the sun's going to rise tomorrow?
Yes.
Are you the cause of the sun rising tomorrow?
No.
Why? You know it's going to
Because
happen.
I mean, unless a world-ending catastrophic event happened, then yes, you could hazard a very good probability and prediction that the
So
sun
you
will
know
rise
you
tomorrow.
know for certain that the sun's going to rise tomorrow, correct?
Again, if there's no world-ending catastrophic disaster, then yes.
Right. So are you the cause of the sun rising tomorrow?
No.
Why not? You have knowledge of it happening.
I have knowledge of it happening, but I have no actions on the sun. But your God has an action on everything.
He didn't have an
That's the
action on Adam
difference.
and Eve picking from the tree. He did
Yeah, I'm
not
not
make
saying
them
he
do it.
literally-
He did not force them to do it. It was their own decision.
and
Knowledge is
yeah,
not causation.
yes.
Can you give me a
with that.
reductio where knowledge is causation? If you can, I'll concede.
No, and that's what I'm saying. I agree with that they still had their free will to do that. But
Mhm.
what I'm saying is he can see into the future because he's all powerful and
I
knows that's
get
gonna
that. I
happen
get that.
anyway.
You're just repeating what you said. You're just saying knowledge is
Yes,
causation again. That's all you're saying. Can you give me a standard where knowledge is causation? Give me a reductio to prove it.
I mean, not from my point of view. No, I'm trying
Right.
to. Put it
So
from God's
again,
point of view.
you're special pleading. You're just saying God knows, so
special
therefore it's
pleading
his
because it's a
fault. But
God.
in every other scenario where everything or anybody else knows something else, it's not their fault. Knowledge is not causation.
Because they're just normal humans. They're not gods. They're not
Doesn't
all
matter
power-
if
no
they're
one's
normal
claiming them.
humans. That doesn't. None of
It
this is
does,
none of
because
this is
nobody-
relevant, bro. Listen.
Nobody on the planet.
Listen, it's basic mathematics, right? If A equals
Okay.
B equals C. Simple as that. Unless you can
Okay.
actually change the standard, right? What we have here is an A equals B equals C. It's a very simple thing. Knowledge is not causation, or it is causation. It cannot be in between. That breaks the law of non-contradiction. So if knowledge is not causation in any other circumstance, then when you say it is causation with God, it's special pleading and it's fallacious by nature.
I mean, I agree that I'm special pleading, but only in the sense of because
Well, if
I'm
you're
putting it
special,
into the direction.
if you're
No.
special, hold on,
Let
you
me
just
finish. No,
agreed you're
let me finish.
special pleading. That means you
Because
lost. Special pleading is
only at
fallacious.
only at direction because it's a god. You're asking
But
for
that's still special
you're asking
pleading.
for
It's fallacious. You gave a fallacious argument. By
Well,
definition, it
this is
means it
what I'm
does
saying.
not logically sound.
But this was the first thing I said to you. I don't understand why a god that's all knowing. It was the beginning of the sort of question. I don't understand why a god that knows what's going to happen in the future.
Bro, you just admitted to the fallacious argument, which means it's not logically sound, which means you lose. There's no further conversation here. Because if it's fallacious, by definition, it's not logically sound, which means it's not true. A modern brain came said atheist logic. Bad things happen to humans equal God did it. God makes good things happen to humans equals I still don't believe. Thanks for the $5, bro. But you understand, right? If you use a fallacious argument, special pleading, which you just admitted, by definition, it's not logically sound, doesn't logically follow, therefore it cannot be true.
I mean, you can still ask questions about a god or whatever, though, right? And
you can ask
why that happens.
You can ask questions all day, but what I'm saying is knowledge is not causation. It's simple as that.
But seeing in the future is different to that. Like if I said to
you, no, it's not. You just admitted it's special pleading. You just admitted it's fallacious, which means it's not logically sound.
If I said to you, I can see into the future. I can see everything in the future. Would you not ask me what the lottery numbers are or something, and prove it?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So this is what I'm saying. If I knew that, and then I was like, "Oh, look, told you, they're the lottery numbers," and they came in correct.
Yeah. If you gave me the lottery numbers, the knowledge that you have is not causation, but you giving me the lottery numbers is a causation. Because you've now done something. You had a potential and you actualized it.
Yes, and that's what I was saying. Even when I even said
to you, God didn't do that. He didn't have a potential and actualize it when it come to eating from the garden. He said not to do it.
But he knows the outcome. You're still going.
All right. I'm gonna go because you literally admitted it's a fallacious argument, which means you literally admitted it is not logically sound. Which means at this point we're arguing for no reason at all because I have won this conversation. But I appreciate your time.